they're not taking into account the fact that when God creates, He may create something good, which is good in and of itself. Something which in and of itself is good. Or He may create something which has an evil aspect to it, but the good which is created by it far outweighs the evil which comes from it. So, the evil was not created for the evil, meaning that the evil things which Allah has created, or the evil things the evil which comes from the things which Allah has created, Allah did not create them for that evil specifically, but for the good that would be taken from the evil. And we have to keep in mind at the same time that one cannot know good unless one knows evil. Just as you don't know what sweet is unless you know what sour is. If you've never experienced sour, how can you understand sweet? If you've never experienced up, how can you understand down? These opposites is a part of Allah's creation. He's created things in opposites. That in knowing the opposites, a thing is itself known, right? And there's a famous line or portion of poetry in Arabic which expresses that وَبِضِدِّهَا يَتَمَيَّزُ الْأَشْيَاء, and it is with the opposites that things become distinct. And this is a reality. So when we talk about evil, and if you notice in the Quran, for example, whenever Allah speaks about evil in creation, He always talks about the evil of what He has created. For example, we say, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ. Say, I seek refuge in the Lord of the Dawn from the evil of what He has created. Allah doesn't say the evil He created, but the evil of what He has created. Of course, it is the evil He created in the sense that if He created something which He knew was going to be producing evil, then He created that evil in that sense. But as you could say, a matter of respect and a matter of, it is a delicate subject, a matter of understanding. We don't look at it that Allah created evil, we don't express it that way, but we look at it that Allah created things from which evil came. Now, for human beings, they're the ones who may, we can associate pure evil with, in the sense that they intended evil and they did evil. Whereas Allah doesn't intend evil. Allah intends only good. However, in the process of achieving that good, some evil is produced. And this is also related to the fact that there is free will. Allah chose to make a creation which had free will, human beings and the jinn. He didn't have to make them, but this was His choice. And one cannot question Allah's choice. Why did you make a creation that has free will? Well, He made creation without free will, and He also made creation with free will. This is the greatness of Allah. Its powers of creation are not limited to one aspect and not another. It creates completely. We tend to be limited as human beings. The things we create, we make, or manipulate, they're very limited in scope. We're not able to make all sides of the coin. So when we go back to issues like natural disasters, or death of relatives, or gangsters, etc., as the writer put in here, we can relate back to the, for example, the plane crash, recent plane crash with the Gulf Air. In the newspaper, there was an article about one Egyptian. They had himself in the newspaper with his sister kissing him on one cheek and his father kissing him on the other cheek. And what was his case? He was a school teacher working in Bahrain. He was supposed to be on that flight. He'd gone to the airport. And due to bureaucracy, some bureaucratic hang-ups, he didn't have a visa renewed or whatever, some visa reviews that he needed, or work visa to leave the country. And So it wasn't there. He was so upset and everything, he couldn't get on his flight, and the flight took off without him. Of course, when it crashed in the sea, killing all 140 odd passengers, he was a miracle. You know, he was saved. His sister was kissing him, his father was kissing him, he had a big smile on his face. But at the time, when he didn't get his flight, that was a calamity for him. He was so upset, so worked up, and so on and so forth. But relative to him, that became that calamity that befell him at the airport was good. Now, when we talk about the death of relatives, this can cause, sometimes you hear of people who find God through death in their family. Somebody dies close to them, and this wakes them up. You live a life, you think, I'm going to live forever, and you don't think of death. That's why Prophet Muhammad has said, visit the graves, because it will remind you of the next life. In this life, we can get so caught up in the material world, doing the material things, fulfilling the material needs, the desires. We get so caught up in it, we forget that this world is going to end. And it can end very suddenly. It can end any time. We don't know. So, we should really be preparing for the next world. Must be just focused on this world. So death sometimes wakes people up. It brings them to a state of, why am I here? Why didn't I die? Why did this relative of mine die and not me? Maybe I deserve it more. So death of a relative may be a wake-up call. Disaster in the country. Maybe a wake-up call to the people of the country. You see disasters happening. Sometimes they happen in areas where there's a lot of corruption. Disaster comes in. And, natural disasters. And then people have to question themselves. Allah says in the Quran very clearly that whatever calamity befalls you is a product of what your own hands have done. So calamities in general, calamities are a product of human sin. They are a product of human sin. Now that sin may cause the death of others, as well as oneself. So there may be some people who are caught up in it because they're in the middle of it all. They're caught up in it, so they suffer as a result of the sins of others. But from the Islamic perspective, suffering is purification. We don't seek suffering in and of itself, that we ask Allah to make us suffer. But whenever we have some form of suffering, we suffer some form of pain, whether the Prophet said, even if it's only stepping on a thorn, and if something pricks our foot, if we're patient with it, it is purification from sin. In this long time, when they didn't control and restrict and suffering, we say to them, Tuhurun, inshallah. May this be a source of purification for you, God willing. With that, dear viewers, we'd like to thank you for being with us in this segment of our program. We hope that you will continue to send in your questions and that your answers are coming. Sometimes you answer a question and you don't see the answer. The next program, it's not on it. Because sometimes that does take time to get to us. Programs that you're watching are necessarily recorded the same day. They're recorded maybe weeks before or months before. So just be patient, and if you really need a written answer to your letters, then make a note of it, and I will try to give you a written answer also. With that, dear viewers, we bid you farewell. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.